So here's the plan. You're going to start a little high on your sales price, because when people start coming in and making offers, you want to have a little bit of a margin there in order for you to negotiate and go back and forth. And so you're ultimately going to be giving away less. I certainly do understand this logic. I've heard it many times before. The problem is that by and large, it's incorrect, and it actually will end up costing you more money in the long run. My name is Jamin Goecker. I'm a realtor with Keller Williams here in South Central Alaska, and my mission is to help you to build an intentional and a significant legacy for yourself and your family by coaching you in real estate. And today, we're going to be talking about kind of some pricing strategies, one of them being, hey, we want to start really high because when offers start coming in, we want to have the margin in order to come down. And I can certainly understand the logic, but yeah, we'll talk more about that in just a bit here. Before we get started, do make sure you give this video a like, subscribe if you haven't done so already to the channel, and let's go ahead and jump into today's video. So the thought process behind this strategy is pretty straightforward. We've kind of reiterated it just a little bit ago, and I can understand the logic. It gives you the feeling of having a little bit of a buffer in there in case somebody decides to come back and start negotiating for stuff, and you feel like you have a little bit more leeway there. The problem is that it doesn't really work out that way, because with most things, with a specifically consumer items, like let's say you go to a garage sale, you see something there that you like, you can go barter with the owner right then and there, and you pay everything and you're all good to go. The problem is when we're doing real estate, it's such a big process. You have to bring in a third party, a lender, who then goes and hires somebody else, the appraiser, to go evaluate the value of that particular item. So whereas at the garage sale, you start at this price and then you come down and it's done and you're off to the races. It doesn't work that way when you're doing real estate, because everybody knows what that item is probably going to be worth, because we have all the sales and the comparable properties that have sold recently. And it's very obvious to buyers who are just going through, even just on their phones, and comparing properties side by side, if a property is realistic or if it's, if they're just completely off their rocker. So for that reason, it's very difficult to make that actually work. Another thing that really contributes to that strategy not really holding up to reality is that once it's been on the market for a while, people can tell very quickly if it's overpriced, because they do have access to their phones and they can compare these properties side by side. If it's obviously overpriced, then they're going to know it. And in this market that we're in currently in 2022, they're probably not even going to make an offer. In years past, they might have made an offer that was lower, just what they believe the market value actually was. In this market, most buyers are kind of shy, and they're not even going to make an offer if it's below the asking price, because so many of them are used to having to go and actually offer above asking price in order to be considered. So in this market, they're probably not even going to make an offer on it, and it's going to sit on the market for a lot longer than it would otherwise. And by the time that somebody finally does make an offer, they're going to feel pretty bold about coming down on the price, like a lot more down on the price than you were expecting. They're probably going to ask for closing expenses, and they're probably going to start asking for stuff like new water heater, new boiler, this repair, that repair, all this stuff. And it's probably not going to be an awesome scenario, because we're already starting from a weak point as far as the negotiating stance goes. So those are kind of the basic reasons that I've seen that this negotiating strategy of starting high with the intent of just coming down lower, if you have to in the process, doesn't really work. The transparency of information just kind of negates that, and a lot of people are just going to let it sit there and let time do its thing, where we have to reconsider it eventually. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into the negotiating process and the pricing strategy that really helps in the negotiations. But before we get started with that, do make sure that if you are looking at selling your house, you register for either one of my 2 seller seminars. I'm going to be hosting either June 25th or July 30th of 2022. Link for those are going to be in the description section down below. And if you're just looking at kind of dipping your toes in the water, get a feel for what this whole home selling process is going to look like for you, then certainly do feel free to RSVP to it. There's no obligations to it, and it's very laid back, and you get to ask a lot of questions that you have as we're moving our way along here. So do make sure you take advantage of that. And let's go and talk about some pricing strategies that actually set you up for success in the negotiating process. So the best negotiating strategy we can do as far as the pricing goes is to make sure that we just price it where the market shows we need to be. In the current market that we're at, where things are starting to shift a little bit, they're starting to slow down, interest rates are going up, and so it's not quite the same availability of cash and money that we had before. It is better to be a lot more on the conservative side and then give it a week. And then if we don't have any showings or the feedback has not been great and everyone's just not really loving the price, then it's time to make that adjustment quickly, after that first week. And the reason we do it so fast is because of negotiations. The timing of everything is critical. If we stayed on the market for 4 months and we finally got down to the price we needed to be, the place we should have started, then it's been 4 months and we look like, old produce at the grocery store at this point, and people are probably going to come in actually lower than that just because they feel so emboldened by the property being on the market for so long. They'll probably start asking for more stuff as a result. So for that reason, we start out where we think it needs to be. If we don't have any offers in hand, then it's time to make that adjustment quickly. And the reason we do that is because we make a small adjustment up front quickly, then we regain the initiative, and then at that point, buyers can start coming in, and then at that point, we actually will tentatively have the ability to have a multiple offer situation where we're actually negotiating it up. Okay, because I've seen this happen before where, so-and-so, they didn't want to drop the price down to a specific amount of what the market was showing, and they ended up dropping it down, and then with the competition, it immediately just shot right back beyond where it was before. So from a negotiating standpoint, it makes way more sense to start where we need to, or maybe even a little lower. Don't really recommend that all the time, but you can come down even a little bit lower, more on the conservative side, and let all the competition do its thing and drive that price upwards. So that's really what we're going for. But these are just some of the strategies that we use. Every property is going to be a little bit different. Everyone's situation is going to be a little bit different. So do feel free to reach out to me on my website down below. I'd be happy to chat a little bit and kind of see what your situation is and what strategy is going to work best for you folks as we're helping you to make that move happen. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.